Hotel Transylvania 2. The movie begins with the wedding of Mavis, voiced by Selena Gomez, and Jonathan, voiced by Andy Samberg. After Jonathan's family arrives, the family gathers to take pictures, with Mavis and Drac amusingly not in any of them due to them being vampires, and the wedding happens, with both humans and monsters attending. During the reception, Dracula, voiced by Adam Sandler, dances with Mavis and asks her if this was what she wanted. She replies that it was perfect, and Drac adds that as long as she was happy, he would be happy. Soon, Mavis tells Drac to fly around with her. As they haven't flown together in a while, Drac obliges. While playing cloud hide and seek, Mavis suddenly slows down. She then reveals the real reason on why she wanted to play. She was pregnant with her first child. Drac is thrilled and immediately makes preparations for the baby, immediately assuming that he was going to have a baby vampire. 9 months later, baby Dennis, voiced by Blinkoff, is born. Soon after, we see him grow and eventually play with the other monsters in the hotel, particularly the werewolf children. Drac is adamant on him being a vampire, but Mavis plays with the idea of him being a normal human child. Soon after, while we see a 5-year-old Dennis, Jonathan is teaching the rest of the hotel social media and texting on cell phones. Right after failing to teach Drac anything, we find out that Mavis is considering moving away from Transylvania and into the human world with her family. Dennis is probably not a vampire, as he is nearing the age of 5 and hasn't developed fangs yet. To Drac's dismay, the only monster Dennis loves is Cakey the Cake, which is a TV character in a children's program promoting sharing. Drac storms off and internalizes in front of the mirror. Soon after, Frankenstein, voiced by Kevin James, joins him and, while amusingly trying to fit into one of Drac's capes, Drac comes up with an idea: take Dennis to monster boot camp and try to teach him how to be a monster to develop his fangs, so Mavis and Jonathan won't have to leave. He then rushes to Jonathan and they agree on the plan. The next day, Mavis and Jonathan head out to visit his parents, while Drac takes Frankenstein, Wayne the werewolf, Griffin the invisible man, and Murray the mummy for his quest. We then see a blob named Blobby join them by tagging along on a scooter tied to the car. In the car, everyone, but Drac, jams out to the song Worth It by Fifth Harmony, but Drac shuts it off and instead plays a self-read autobiography of Bigfoot, to the dismay of everyone else. Their first stop is an old hunting ground, which is now a public park. Drac tells Frankenstein to scare some people, and he hides and screams at 2 jogging girls, only for the girls to recognize him and take selfies with him. In the human world, Mavis worries about Dennis, but Jonathan tells her not to worry. They then stop at a skate park, and after riding a bike and performing giant tricks, Mavis is clearly happy to stay there. Meanwhile, on the way to the gang's second stop, Blobby falls off the cliff. When they get there, Drac has Wayne the werewolf, voiced by Steve Buscemi, attempt to kill and eat a deer, only to get distracted by a bone and fight a dog for it. A dejected Drac brings them both back in the car as Mavis calls him on his phone. He lies and says that they're at the hotel, and Mavis seems to buy it. Drac then stops on one more stop and tells Murray to summon a sandstorm, which fails. Murray breaks his bones and collapses. Later on, in the human world, Mavis stops by at a Minimart and is entranced by all the Slurpee flavors. They then finally arrive at Jonathan's parents, Mike and Linda, voiced by Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally. They show Mavis her room just like home, which is basically just a room decorated with Halloween decorations. They then try to bring more monsters and human couples in for dinner, but they only end up making her feel more like an outcast. In Transylvania, finally out of options, Drac takes Dennis and the gang to the Camp Wakanawawa, which was the camp that helped Drac learn his vampire skills. To his dismay, the camp is child-proofed and safe everywhere. While being bored in a song around the campfire, Drac takes Dennis to the highest and most dangerous point in camp and throws him off, trying to make him fly. After nearly falling to his death, Drac saves Dennis and the camp counselor scolds Drac. While Drac talks, the gang makes the entire tower fall and Murray catches on fire, causing major damage around camp and destroying Drac's car. In the human world, Mavis and Jonathan are on the roof. She's sad about thinking that it wasn't right to go to the human world. Jonathan says that his parents mean well, and then Mavis decides to call Drac after Jonathan finds a video of Dennis's fall posted on YouTube. When she calls, Mavis is clearly angry. She knows what Drac did, and she says that he better be there when she gets back to the hotel or else. She then rushes with Jonathan to the airport, and after finding no flights, she turns into a bat and just picks up Jonathan to fly to Transylvania herself. Meanwhile, Drac has them call Blobby in his scooter, and then they go off speeding. at a very slow pace. When the slow scooter finally gives up, Drac has Frankenstein inflate Blobby and fly to the hotel. Once they get there, Drac thinks he is fine, but Mavis got there first. She is upset and says that she is definitely taking Dennis away now, after he has his upcoming birthday party at the hotel. When Drac objects, she says what he said earlier about accepting anyone. She says, "You accepted humans at the hotel, but you never truly let them into your heart." While Mavis is packing, we see Dennis playing around with the thought of being a vampire. Every members of the family then head to dinner, where we find out Mavis invited Drac's estranged father Vlad, Mel Brooks, to the birthday party. Drac then freezes everyone and tells Jonathan to dress everyone up as monsters and say it's a costume party. Vlad hates humans, and that's the reason why Drac doesn't want him around. Meanwhile in his cave, Vlad receives the invite and decides to go with his minion Dana Carvey. In the hotel, the party is kicking off, with Jonathan disguising himself as a vampire and his family being zombies. Drac even hired Keki's performer for his party. When Vlad arrives, he leaves Dana out, who smells humans around. After an awkward meet, Vlad tells Drac that the only way to get Dennis's fangs out is to scare him by possessing something he loves and scaring him. Vlad then goes with it and possesses Keki, scaring Dennis. While Drac argues with Vlad, the entire human family has been exposed as well. Dennis runs away with one of the werewolf children and they head to the treehouse. Unaware though, Dana has detected the humans and has called the entire vampire pack to attack. In the treehouse, Dana scares and holds the werewolf child and Dennis hostage. At the hotel, everyone finally realizes Dennis is gone, and they all search for him. When the werewolf child is thrown by Dana, Dennis gets enough courage and his fangs pop out, and he beats the crap out of Dana. When Drac and Mavis finds him, Drac is pleased, and then the pack arrives. All the monsters beat up the vampires, and when only Dana is left, Vlad turns him small and sends him away. In the end, Mavis decides to stay at the hotel for good with Jonathan and Dennis, with the extended family visiting him on holidays, and everyone parties the night away. Everyone is truly happy.